By installing the system on your computer, you become more or less an administrator. And you need to have some basic administration skills. The most important tasks: users and groups management, working with repositories and packages, device and drivers handling, file systems configuring, archiving and backups, and network administration. Typically, system administration in different Unix-like systems is the most different part of the system. Although the general approaches to administration are more or less the same everywhere. On some systems, you have tools that can help you perform some of the administrative tasks. For example, GNOME Control Center in systems with GNOME user interface, in Red Hat Enterprise Linux, simple text config, program setup, graphical tools, system config something. The commercial systems provides their own more or less administrator-friendly tools. As we understand it, we need super user rights to perform such tasks. Some systems may require stricter restriction where system administration tasks can be decoupled from those of a security officer. Using mandatory access control systems, such as those developed by the National Security Agency, NSA, SE Linux subsystems in the Linux kernel. So let's take a look at the Red Hat setup tool. So we need to authenticate as root superuser. We must know the password of superuser root. We have to enter the root password, and after that we can do some simple settings. Authentication configuration, the system services. But when we run some other programs, the systems may ask for the user password, not root. This is because those programs use different machinery for increasing privileges. A more general way is just switch to the root superuser, and the first way to do this is with the su command. Su run a command with a substitute user and group ID by default to root superuser. For such user switching, we need to say the password of this user. When called without arguments, su defaults to running an interactive shell as a root. A very important option is just a dash. It means starts the shell as login shell with an environment similar to a real login. After switching to superuser root, your prompt will change from $sign to a hash sign. But the log name still show the user and the real user identifier by which we log in our system. In BSD systems, for security reasons, only users in the wheel group 0 can use SU as a root, even if you know the root password. In many Unixes and Linuxes, plugin authentication module PAM is now being used to fine-tune the privilege change. The settings for these systems are located in the etc pamd directory. And one of the applications whose config files we can find in this directory is the sudo command. The default PAM security policy allows users configured appropriately in etc sudoers config file to run command with root privileges. In this case, you don't need to know the password of root user to do this. Also, by default, only one command is executed by sudo instead of su, where we have to use the C option to run one command. This reduces the chances of an unexpected error for an inexperienced user. And this is, for example, the default policy for Ubuntu systems. When Ubuntu is installed, a standard root account is created, but no password assigned to it. You cannot log in as a root until you assign a password for the root account. Only sudo may be used with such default settings. To allow a regular user to run sudo this way on Red Hat-based systems such as Fedora, RHEL, CentOS, or now Linux, you must add this user to the wheel group as an BSD. And the easiest way to get a root shell session, like in SU, with sudo in Ubuntu, is just to run sudo -i. This means interactive.